In this video, we're going to talk about what is holding people back from growing online. Because when it comes to growth on social media, most people think that it might be the algorithm, or they picked the wrong niche, or has something to do with editing. But after building an audience of 150,000 people, generating millions of views, and studying content for over 10 years, I've realized something. Most people don't grow for a very different reason. And the most frustrating part about this is that it's usually self-inflicted, because they're not being held back by the algorithm. They're being held back by the way they actually think about content. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 5 biggest reasons why most people never grow online and how to overcome these mistakes so that you actually start growing yourself. And make sure you stick around for number 4, because I genuinely think it's one of the biggest mistakes most creators make. And it's only something I've actually really understood more recently myself as well. So the first reason most people don't ever grow online is because they're always trying to go viral. And I know that sounds strange, because isn't that the whole point? Because don't we want more people seeing our content, seeing what we've actually created? Well, yes, but not at the expense of everything else. You see, one of the biggest mistakes is that creators treat views as the end goal. They become obsessed with reach and virality. But the problem with that is that views don't actually build a business. It doesn't build trust, nor does it build an actual audience, although the right views do. So think about it like this. If you're a fitness coach and you post something around the idea of some latest trend which hasn't got anything to do with fitness, you might get 1 million views and a lot of likes, but it's not the right kind of following that you want to actually grow your fitness business. Now compare that to someone who posts something niche specific to fitness and it gets 10,000 views and a lot of engagement as well. Those people who are engaged with that piece of content are more likely to take the next steps in joining your program or buying something from you, because they're your ideal client. And the creators who actually understand this, they don't create content for everyone. They create content for someone. And when you look closely at the creators who grow consistently, you'll notice that they do 2 things very well. Firstly, they deeply understand their target audience. They understand their pains, they understand their problems, they understand what keeps them up at night. And the second thing is that they speak the language of that target audience. So let's start with the first one. The creators who actually know what keeps their audience up at night. These creators know what frustrates their audience, their pains, their struggles, and they also know what their audience is trying to achieve. And because they understand those things, creating content becomes a lot easier. For example, if I know my audience is struggling to grow online, it makes it a lot easier for me to create content around what problems they actually face with growing online. And I don't have to sit here and wonder what to post, because I already understand the questions they're asking. Why isn't my content growing? Why aren't I getting more reach? Why aren't I converting? And every one of those questions becomes a piece of content. And that's why the best creators rarely run out of ideas. They're not guessing what their audience wants. They're listening to their audience and their problems. But understanding your audience is only half the equation. The second half is being able to speak like your target audience. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, because you can understand someone's pains and problems, but still create content and sound like a complete outsider. Think about it like this. If you've never played golf, but you want to create content for golfers, you can probably talk about golf, but you won't sound like a golfer. You won't use their terminology, you won't understand their frustrations, you won't understand the actual culture around golfing. And when you deliver your content, people will feel that immediately. So when the best creators create content, they don't just sound like their target audience, they actually understand their frustrations on a deep emotional level, but they know the language, the lingo, and how to actually communicate the ideas and the frustrations well. As a result, their audience feel understood and they think, how did this person get inside my head? And that only happens when you spend enough time around your target audience that you actually start becoming like them. You start speaking their language, you use their terminology, their lingo, their frustrations, the emotions behind it. You actually start embodying it, and it actually delivers through in your content. So when you combine those 2 things, understanding your target audience and their pains and frustrations, and actually speaking like your target audience, something interesting happens. Your content starts feeling less like content and starts feeling more like a conversation. And that's when your actual audience starts paying more attention to you and your content. But unfortunately, even when people actually understand this, they still might not actually grow online. And that's where it comes to the second problem. The second mistake most people actually make when trying to grow online is they try to get known for absolutely everything. One week they're talking about fitness, the next week they're talking about finance, the next week they're talking about content growth. Then after that, they're just creating content about whatever's trending. They don't actually have a cohesive niche or topic that they talk about or that they're known for. And while you might feel like you're giving yourself more opportunity to grow and grow a larger audience, you're actually making it a lot harder for people to remember you and come back to you regularly. Because every time someone sees your content, they're asking themselves subconsciously, what is this person about? And if they can't answer that, they typically just move on or you're just forgotten. So let's think about some of the biggest creators around. Alex Hormozi, he's known for business and sales. Callaway is known for content and storytelling. Gary Vee is known for social media and marketing. Their audience has a very simple way of actually describing them because they've actually presented themselves as a force in that space on a certain topic. And take the fitness industry, for example. There's a creator here in Australia by the name of Adam Sullivan who owns Evidence-Based Training. I'm sure you've probably all seen him. He goes by the name of Cunny as well. And he went viral in the fitness space because he was talking a lot about diets and calories. Now, Adam is actually a lot more knowledgeable than just calories and diets. He knows about fitness, body composition, training, all that stuff. But when most people think about Adam, especially in his early stages of his career and growth, everyone knew him for calories of certain foods and certain diets. So if someone actually wants to lose weight and train better, Adam becomes one of the first people that people think about when it comes to that topic knowledge. And that's the power of being known for a single topic. Most creators become known for one thing before they're given the right to actually talk about multiple things. And that's the power of becoming known for something. Because people just stop seeing you as just another creator and they start seeing you as a person who can actually help them solve a particular problem and get an end result. And that's important because people also remember simple. The easiest creators to remember are the easiest people to describe. And most creators, when they start out, they try to do the opposite. They try to talk about 10 different topics before they've actually built trust around one. And as a result, no one really knows what to go to them for. So think about your content. If someone came to your page and discovered your content, is it clear to them what your content is actually about, what you actually stand for? Or would they struggle to describe it? Because that's usually where the problem starts. It's not about putting yourself in a box forever. The goal isn't that. The goal in the initial stages is to give people something to remember you by. When people start knowing you for a specific topic and they can give them a specific result, that's when you become known in that niche. If every time someone sees your content and they learn something, eventually they stop seeing you as another creator and the person to go to for a specific result actually help them get an outcome. And that's a very different position to be in. Because when people have a problem in that niche, they don't just start searching for random creators or random information, they start searching for the person that actually helped them with that topic. And the creators who grow the most aren't talking about multiple topics, they're specific to one and they grow from there, and not the other way around. So be known for a specific topic and go deep on actually helping people and get value in that topic area so you become known for that. Now, the third reason most people don't grow online is because they quit before the actual data means anything. And I understand why. You spend hours creating a piece of content, post it online only for nothing to happen. And when the numbers aren't what you were hoping for, you start assuming everything else is wrong. But one of the biggest mistakes is that creators will draw assumptions from a very small batch of data. You might have posted 5, 10, or even 20 times, and something might have worked, and a creator will conclude that they know the reason why something's not working and make assumptions. The problem is that most creators actually haven't gathered enough data to be able to draw any significant conclusions about what's working and what's not. One video, 5, or even 10, doesn't tell you much about what's working or what's actually going to give you the result. And the way you should treat it is that every piece of content is actually an experiment giving you feedback on hooks, retention, visuals, all those kind of things. And the goal isn't to prove yourself right. The goal is to actually learn something. So for example, let's say you create 10 videos, 8 perform poorly, 1 performs okay, and then 1 actually stands out. Most people focus on the 8 that failed, but the best creators focus on the 1 that didn't. And there's a reason why. And that's because success leaves clues. They start asking better questions about that piece of content. Like, why did this piece of content work better? Was it a better topic? Was it a better hook? Was it better visuals? Did it solve a bigger problem or did it attract a bigger audience? And what they do there is they take that lesson and take it into the next pieces of content. And they repeat the process over and over and over again. And that's actually how growth happens. Not through one viral video, but through hundreds of small lessons stacked on top of each other over time. The creators who grow aren't necessarily smarter or better, but they just learn the lessons a lot faster and apply them over and over again. Because the truth is, most creators don't fail, they just leave too early before the data actually means anything. Now, the fourth reason why most people never grow online is because they become obsessed with content creation and not about topic selection. And most creators do this subconsciously. They think about, how can I get better visuals? How can I improve my content? How can I improve my scripting, my hooks, my recording? And while all those things actually matter, they often forget the one thing which actually people care about most. And that's the actual topic of the piece of content itself. Over the last few months, I've spent hours studying creators across different industries, finance, business, health. And something became very obvious about the ones that grew and the ones that didn't. The biggest videos weren't always the best videos or the most informative videos, but the videos which grew the most were the pieces of content which had the best topic, and a topic which a lot of people cared about, which actually solved a problem. And a lot of creators have this similar problem. They think they have a content problem, where in actual fact, they actually have a topic selection problem. They create content around things that they want to talk about, but it's not necessarily what their audience actually wants answered. And that's a huge difference, because the best creators don't just study the content itself, they study where the demand is coming from and create content around the best topic around that. They pay attention to the frustrations of their audience, the questions which keep getting asked, and the goals that people desperately want achieved. And one of the biggest lessons that I've learned recently myself is that a great topic can carry an average piece of content. But even great content struggles if the topic sucks. And that's why before I create any content now, I ask myself one question. Would someone who's never heard of me still want the answer to this? Because if the answer is no, it doesn't matter how much time I spend editing or fixing up the piece of content, the topic itself wasn't large enough to actually get attention. And what most creators do is they spend 80% fixing the content or creating the content and only 20% of the time on actually choosing the topic. Where it should be reversed, where 80% of the time is spent choosing the topic and creating the hook for that topic and then creating the rest of the content. So when you understand this, the question doesn't become how can I make this piece of content better? It starts becoming how do I choose a better topic? Because the growth doesn't start with the content, it starts with the topic. And that brings me to the final reason why most creators never grow. And that's because most creators are always waiting until they're ready. And unfortunately, that day typically never really comes. Most people who never actually start content always think I'll start when I've got the confidence or when I've prepared or when I've got this piece of equipment or got the experience. But experience comes from actually starting and learning. So the best thing you actually do is actually take action and start creating content. You'll never be fully ready. But if you start, you'll actually learn and make improvements along the way. So think about it like this. Every creator you follow today started with one post one day. And most likely that post wasn't good at all, because nobody starts good. They become good one piece of content at a time. The problem is, unfortunately, that most people who start are comparing their first video to someone's 1000th video. And then they convince themselves that they're not ready. But the creators who actually do end up becoming successful, they don't treat their first post as a test. They treat it as practice, and that every piece of practice gets them better and gets them closer to their final goals. Every piece of content improves a skill, and every mistake gives them feedback. And over time, those small improvements compound. That's why social media and growing online is actually a very interesting skill, because the people who succeed never started off as the most talented. They end up being the people who are willing enough to learn and stick to it the longest and eventually grow it into something good. And if you think about everything we've spoken about in this video, none of that even matters if you haven't even started. You can't learn your audience until you create content. You can't be known for talking about something until you consistently talk about it. You can't collect data unless you publish it. And you can't improve your topic selection until you've tested enough of them. So all of this starts with actually taking action. So if there's one thing I'd encourage you to do by the end of this video, is that you actually take action on improving or learning or taking notice of what's working, what's not. And if you take anything away from this video, just remember this. Growing online is actually a lot simpler than most people make it. The problem is most creators focus on the wrong things. They obsess over their algorithm, their followers, their reach, editing and equipment. But growth usually comes down to a handful of simple principles. Understand the people you're trying to help, become known for something specifically, stay in the game long enough to collect data, choose better topics, and keep improving with every piece of content. The creators who grow online aren't usually the smartest or the most talented or the ones with the best equipment, because now you can literally film it off your phone. They're the people who consistently do the fundamentals better than everyone else. Because at the end of the day, the algorithm isn't looking for creators. It's looking for content which people are wanting to watch. And if you can create content that consistently entertains people, and educates people, or captures attention, the growth becomes a lot easier. Not overnight, but eventually. So stop looking for shortcuts, stop trying to go viral constantly, and focus on becoming more useful and more memorable. And if you do that consistently enough, growth always becomes inevitable. And don't forget, guys, if you found value in this video, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you again on the next video. Peace.